All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and throughout Ontario on the northern tier of the United States on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, actually just down the street from us here. And they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. These are tumultuous times, and nobody can deny that. Look what's happening within the world of politics. The war in the Middle East is ramping up. The economy is all screwed up. These are tumultuous times, and this is the perfect time when we need angels. Well, our guest this hour is Peter Sterling, and Peter and I are going to be discussing angels, art, and music over the next hour. Peter is in Sedona, Arizona. And if you'd like more information about Peter after the show, not now, X Zone Nation, www.harpmagic.com. And he also has a Facebook page at facebook.com/Harp Magic. Joining me now from Sedona, Arizona is Peter Sterling. And Peter, as always, welcome back to the X Zone.
Rob, thank you for having me back. I guess this is the third time now.
Yeah, third time, and it's always a pleasure talking to you, Peter. Like I was saying, these are tumultuous times, and the angels must be really busy these days.
They certainly are.
Gosh.
They're working overtime, for sure. And I haven't gotten any messages, but it's kind of the same thing. Just connect with the inner peace. Mm-hmm. There's a deep inner peace. So that's what I do with my music and my art. I feel lucky that I have an artistic language through music, art and sound, that I get to communicate what I'm feeling in my heart and bring that out to the world.
By the way, congratulations. You were just telling me before we went to air that you've got a brand new CD coming out.
I do. It's called Heaven Sent, and it's in pre-sale, pre-release right now. It's on Amazon and Apple Music and Spotify. And the drop date is November 29th. So I'm really looking forward to this. I've gotten some really wonderful reviews from people from around the world so far. So I'm excited. This is a very special music, and I think it's perfect timing. You know, Heaven Sent, and the music itself is like a balm for the soul. It was something that came through. I call it Heaven Sent because it came through in one day, basically.
Really?
Yeah, I happened to be in this really kind of open place. I was in a deep feeling, a lot of things in my life. It was the day after Thanksgiving a year ago, and I was going through some stuff. So I had some personal stuff with a relationship, and yet I was feeling grateful for all the blessings in my life. Mm-hmm. And my guidance, the angels that you mentioned, yeah, they just, because I hear them speak to me, and intuitively, and they said, hey, set up your microphones and sit at the harp and just play what I'm feeling. And so that's what I did, and this music came out one kind of complete song after the next, and it was like my hands moved on the strings, and it was like an emotion came out, and I captured it in one sitting. And then over this last year, I orchestrated it. I brought in other musicians from around the world, actually, an international ensemble of musicians from all over the world who play on the record, and it just turned out beautifully.
Well,
Yeah, I'm super
that is
satisfied.
so great, and we wish you all the success in the world because
Thank you so much.
you
Thanks.
truly deserve it. I know how hard you've worked over the years to get where you are today.
Yeah.
Something I've been meaning to ask you ever since you've been on the show. How hard is it to learn how to play the harp? Like you, I look at these people who play the harp, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do they know where to put their fingers?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it came through, rather quickly and
Hmm.
more easily for me. It was almost like once I started, it was almost like remembering something that I did in another time. It really came quickly for me. I mean, 10 months after I first picked up a harp without really any formal lessons, I made my first record here in Sedona. This is 30 years ago,
Wow.
and that ended up getting me discovered by a record label, and they sent it out all over the world internationally, and I won a national award that year, so for string album of the year. So it happened very quickly for me. But that is a common question. People look at it and they say, wow, there's kind of a understanding from people that, oh, they often say the harp is like the most difficult instrument to play. Yeah. And the harp that I play is more of a Celtic folk harp,
Hmm.
a lever harp. So what is difficult is the orchestral pedal harps, the classical
Right.
harps. And when you see these classically trained harpists, they're just amazing. They're
Oh,
so fast on the strings, and I don't play like that. I don't have these very complex fingerings and stuff. I'm much more simple in my technique and my approach to playing, but I'm able to communicate emotion through my playing and a feeling. It's about a feeling that I'm always trying to communicate when I play the harp, and apparently I've done pretty well with it.
I imagine so with all the awards you've won. And once again, congratulations on your new CD that's coming out on the end of November.
Thank
Oh,
you.
how did you have your first encounter with angels, Peter?
Wow, well, that happened here, I mean, where it was undeniable that
Hmm.
that's what was happening. That happened here in Sedona just over 30 years ago, and I came here, I was on my, I came here on my spiritual quest. I came here by myself, following like some sort of mysterious voice
Yeah.
and magnetic pull, kind of like I often describe it similar to like the movie Close Encounters, when people started all having that same dream and seeing that
Right.
same rock
Yeah.
formation and all ended up there. That's what it was like for me with Sedona. I was pulled here and things lined up, and I came here and I just started exploring, the
Hmm.
outback, the canyons here, which I was so drawn to. I would just hike out by myself out in the, deep into the canyons and climb up to the ancient ruins, that are thousands of years old, and sit and just ponder this incredible scenery there. But also there was just an undeniable energy back in these places, and these are known as the energy vortexes of Sedona. But
Hmm.
even with the Native American people, there's lots of ancient legends and creation stories about this area with the Hopi and the Zuni and other tribes, that this was a special place and that there was a special energy here. And not only that, but entrance ways, into the subterranean worlds of the inner earth. This is what the Hopis talk about, that there was a subterranean race here called the Ant People. This is in the Hopi creation stories. And, the Hopi's ancestor was taken underground when the Great Flood came. They were told to go underground, and the story is the ant people came up and opened up these secret passageways, and the people went down. They closed it up. The floods came, and then once the flood waters receded, they emerged back to the surface of the earth into the fourth world age of the Hopi after the great purification. And so this out here, there's these portals into other dimensions. So Rob, I really just I went through a veil,
Hmm.
sitting in the silence of the canyons and just allowing my awareness, my consciousness to move and to explore, kind of being disassociated from my physical body, like my non-local part that could, kind of astral project and time travel and all that. I had some mystical experiences, but it was through sitting in the silence of the canyons where, to answer your question, when I first started to hear a celestial tone, a heavenly sound that was of such a fine vibration and purity and an essence that I had never heard anything like that. And it just struck such a deep chord. And the more I tuned into it, the louder it became. And I've been really deep in my meditation. All of a sudden, my inner world opened up like that. My psychic senses opened up, my third eye and my third ear, and I began to be able to see and to hear into another dimension, and that's how it started.
It almost sounds like a love story.
It really was. Yeah. It is a love story. It's an ongoing love story, and that's what the music is about. Heaven Sent, the new record, because that's what I played to, was that connection I have to the divine. It's really a love affair with the divine, and we all have that, with our own personal relationship with God and the Creator, that, and so yes, that's what it is, and that's what was revealed to me at that time. And the angels, they came as messengers to me. I heard the sound, I heard the glorious heavenly sound, and then, when I was in deep, and kind of soul traveling on the inner dimensions in my deep meditation and listening to this sound, then the angels appeared to me. I saw them on the inner planes, and they became into focus. And then I realized, we realized that we could hear each other. There was a telepathic connection. And so a conversation and a relationship ensued and begun at that time. And they told me a lot of things and took me a lot of places, because I went on many journeys with them. I write about this in great detail in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing. They actually pointed the way, and I went on journeys, and then they took me to see the light.
All right, we're going to have a little bit of a cliffhanger here, because I have to take my first break. But Peter,
I'm sorry.
Please don't be sorry, Peter.
I get cruised in that straight kind of flow of consciousness.
That's okay. I love it. I really do. But we got to take care of business once in a while over here. And Exonation, my guest this hour, stay tuned, is Peter Sterling. And we're going to be talking about angels, art, and much more. Peter's in Sedona, Arizona, and his website is harpmagic.com, and he's the author of Hearing the Angels Sing and Peter and the Magic Harp. And Peter and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues from our broadcast center here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Before we go to our next break, don't forget, the October edition of the X Chronicles is still available at www.xchronicles.net. That's XCHRONICLES.net. And on November the 7th, out goes October, and bang, at that same website is the November edition of the X Chronicles newspaper. And do you know what, X-Zone Nation? It's 100% free. 100%. And all you have to do is go to xchronicles.net. Peter and I return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
I was walking home from school on a cold winter day. Took a shortcut through the woods, and I lost my way. It was getting late, and I was scared and alone. But then a kind old man took my hand and led me home. Now Mama couldn't see him, oh, but he was standing there. I knew in my heart he was the answer to my prayers. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Sterling is my special guest this hour. His website is harpmagic.com. And one more bit of housework before we get back to Peter and his story about angels, music, harp, magic, art, and much more. The X-Zone directory of Who's Who for 2025 is in the end times of production. So if you'd like to get yourself registered in the the X-Zone directory of Who's Who, just send me an email to publisher@xzonedirectory.com and we'll have our people contact you and let's have a chat. It's that plain, it's that simple, nothing complicated here at the X-Zone. Peter, the story that you were starting to tell us about the connection with angels, did the angels look like what we've seen in the artistry of the great masters, or were they more of a light figure? And here's something I wanted to ask you too. When you were talking about music with the angels, did they glow differently?
First, I want to say that's a beautiful song that you played there at the break. I love that. I've never heard that before.
That's Angels Among Us by Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Beautiful song, yeah.
Did they glow? You know, I've seen different types of visions, but the main thing that happened to me when they appeared to me on the inner planes, you know, it was like a virtual reality type of experience. They looked like just like how they're depicted on the Sistine Chapel.
Really?
And the cherubs that we see. You know, I was in Venice, Italy this summer. I got to go. I took my 13-year-old son and we explored many of the great basilicas, you know, with these beautiful mosaics and artwork and cherubs and angels everywhere they are. And yes, that's what they look like. I mean, before they appeared, I had no conception of angels because, as I was saying, I was like on my shamanic journey when I first got here and exploring the canyons and the ancient ruins of the native peoples. And I was playing my native flute and just kind of walking with the ancestor spirits. And then all of a sudden the angels showed up. And when they appeared to me and I perceived them, it was like, oh my God, it was like I couldn't believe what I was seeing at first. I kind of had to clear my mind of any self-created images in my imagination. Maybe I was making this up myself, but then no, I realized that no, this was really happening. And it was a real game changer for me when I realized that this was real. They are real and they're not some sort of fable or fantasy. No, there's a real phenomenon. The angels are real. Once I realized that, and my life went on a new trajectory because, you know, I invited them into my life. That's the thing with all of us, you know, we have to invite them, you know, to come and be with us. You know, we all have angels around us, but there's a relationship, as we spoke at the beginning of this, with the divine. They're an emanation of the divine, and they're a midwayer. They're like messengers for the divine. They're not, so they're almost like a stepping stone. So they make it real easy, and they're so loving and fun. And the way that they communicate to us and the way they show us that they are real and their presence is in our life, it's a magical experience. They can help us a lot. And from that can even take us to a higher plane because they're just kind of pointing the way. You know, they're showing the way to the light. And that's what happened to me, Rob. They took me to the light, and that's where I saw the luminous sphere of golden light that was emanating just pure love, pure divinity, pure purity, something of divine nature that I had never experienced. And it's a very common experience with people that have had near-death experience and have crossed to the other side. They often report that there is a luminous sphere of golden light, like a bright sun that's pulsating pure love. And that was what my experience was. I saw that and I experienced it. And I saw the multitudes of angels surrounding it. And what the angels told me was that this is God. This is the Godhead. This is the wellspring. This is the paradise. This is the source of all love and light in the universe is this. And it was wow, it changed when I saw that and I unified with the energy of it and the vibration and the energy coming, it was like washing my soul, Rob, of all the sorrow, anguish, pain, trauma of all my lifetimes of my soul was cleansed like in that moment. It was, and I came into resonance with it, and it was just pure ecstasy, pure love. And then I realized that love is all there is. Love is all that matters. Love is the glue that holds it all together. It's the greatest, most powerful force in the universe. Unfortunately, down here on Earth, on this lower kind of 3D material world, where often seems that we're cut off from this source of light. But the good news is that it is there's changes happening in the universe, in the cosmos, where this light now is coming on stronger, is what they've told me, and that there's a great change is going to come to humanity. And who knows, maybe this is connected to like the second coming, or
Maybe.
it could be something like that. But of course, the angels always have a vision of this glorious future. And sometimes, as you started off, that the world is in such kind of chaos, and there's so much negativity and ugly things in the world that we're seeing, but they don't want us to lose hope. It's easy to lose hope at a time like this, but the angels are always like, don't lose hope. Have hope for tomorrow, that there is a light that's rising on a far horizon. And so to connect with that, and if we all start to connect to that, we can draw it to us. And it's going to be a miraculous experience, and nothing the logical mind could really comprehend or understand. It will be a grand miracle on a scale we've never seen, as humanity goes kind of through the eye of the needle in the days and years ahead.
I believe that there are powers that work behind the scenes that are not only preparing us for the next step, but are also taking steps to make sure that we are protected. And like you said, I believe that they are there. I believe in angels. Because we're not talking about extraterrestrials here. We're not talking about ghosts. We're not talking about Bigfoot. We're talking about angels. And they've been around since day one. And they've let their presence be known to billions of people throughout history.
Yes.
And to me, that is evidence. I had my own angel experience when I was a young boy. My brother, my younger brother, he's 6 years younger than I am. Back then, I guess I was about 10. I guess, yeah. All right, I was about 7 or 8. And back then in those days, baby food came in tin cans. And what the manufacturers weren't totally aware of at the time is that unless now they have the chemicals that go inside that prevent the tainting of the food that's inside the cans, but back then they didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, my brother, God bless him, my mother fed him, unbeknownst to her, tainted baby food. And make a long story short, they drove me down to my grandparents, who just lived down the street from us. They took my brother to the hospital, and it wasn't looking very good. It was looking very grim. My grandmother had called the rest of the family to come to her house, and we were all expecting that phone call from Mom saying that the bad news. Anyway, I was in the kitchen with my grandmother, and there was this man here that I didn't recognize. And, he was wearing white. He had a beard, blue eyes, and he had the most friendly face. And I looked at him, and I felt calm and at peace. And my grandmother turned around and said, "Bobby, what are you smiling at?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking at that man over." And there was no man there.
Mm.
As I said that, the phone rang. At that very moment, it was my mother at the hospital. My brother had turned the corner, and he was going to be all right. So I know for a fact that angels are real because I've seen an angel.
Mm. Nothing like a little botulism to kind of create a near-death experience.
Exactly. And, working in the police force, I had the opportunity of speaking to many other first responders. And paramedics have stories of angels and unexplainable people who just show up at the most convenient times. And then after the crisis is over, that person is no longer to be found. Once again, I believe that they're angels who are helping guide. Yes. And it's a wonderful world. I think the world that is unseen is much more wondrous than the world that we see.
Well, it is wondrous. Yeah. It's wondrous that these ethereal beings from another dimension can interpenetrate into our dimension, and they can create miracles. They can save people from. There's so many stories. I have a story of a woman that I was engaged.
All right, so why don't we hold that story because we're at the commercial break again.
Okay.
And Peter, thanks very much for coming on the show. And again, congratulations on your new CD.
Oh, thank you so much.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Peter Sterling. His website is harpmagic.com. On Facebook, /Harp Magic. And he's also the author of Hearing the Angels Sing and Peter and the Magic Harp. We'll both be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our Broadcast Center and Studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and of course, right here in Ontario and the northern states along Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, our good friends at Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, who stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I was walking home from school on a cold winter day. Took a shortcut through the woods, and I lost my way. It was getting late, and I was scared and alone. But then a kind old man took my hand.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Sterling is our special guest. harpmagic.com is his website. And Peter, before we went to the break, you were just about to tell us a story. And unfortunately, we had to go to the break, but I'd love to hear that story now.
Well, I love that song, Undercover Angel. I mean, I had my own undercover angel. It was a girl who I fell in love with, and we were engaged to be married. And when I got to know her, it turned out she told me just before we met that she was in a terrible car accident. She was living in South Carolina, and she'd been drinking and partying, and she went out on the interstate, and she fell asleep at the
Ooh.
wheel going 75 miles an hour, and she drifted down into the center median and spun out, did a 360, came back, slammed into the guardrail and totaled the car going so fast. And she told me the story that there was somebody that appeared. It was like 2:30 in the morning. There was hardly anybody out there, and apparently somebody came and came to her rescue and actually kind of helped to get her out of the car and held her hand, and then kind of mysteriously disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Once the police got there or
Yeah.
something. And she described it as like an angel, just the whole way it happened. And another friend of mine, Terry Lynn Taylor, who has written many books on angels, and she told a story. One of her first, she was same thing. She was on the highway. She was like a teenager. She was going too fast on the freeway in her mother's station wagon, and the car started to. She was going super fast. The car started to fishtail, and she was heading right for an accident. She said something took hold of the wheel and hit the brakes of the car and got the car back, into control. And so she didn't crash. And she ended up became very famous about talking about angels, 10 books on angels.
My
And that
goodness.
was her first experience. So these types of things happen. And I just listening to the music, I was just reminded, angels are everywhere. They're in so much of the music and our culture and art and literature. They're just pretty much a staple, in our culture, but also around the world. Every major religion has references to angels, So they're definitely there. A lot of people just don't know what to make of it, but the message is more than ever now is that they are real, and that to develop that relationship right now during uncertain times, as we're seeing, with the weather changing out of
Yes.
control and so many factors, to have a relationship with your personal angel I think is essential to help us to make it through the times ahead.
What kind of messages are you getting from the angels these days?
Well, for me, they guide me in my work.
Mm-hmm.
So with my music and my art and so much of what I do, they're just kind of a fixture in my consciousness. And they're in my art, and I have, imagery around me. I just kind of live with them. And it's kind of like, like when you were a kid, little kids, they're talking to their
Yeah.
invisible friends. It's kind of like that. And even when I'm alone, I'm never alone, it feels like, for me. And they always dazzle me with their brilliance, the way they show me things. And I make these incredible discoveries with my visual art called Portals of Light, but also with my music, the way that they kind of inspire me to layer the sounds and choose the arrangement and the orchestration and the way that I mix it to kind of make it like a three-dimensional experience, 4 or 5-dimensional kind of holographic experience with the sound. That's what's so cool about my music, Rob, when you listen to it with headphones or in a really nice setting, when you're in the center of 2 speakers. The way that I create the sound stage and the sound field, that things move from left to right. There's movement. The kind of sound is alive, and it really is captivating. And when the music is a vehicle, Rob, for people to help. Like during uncertain times, stress levels are so high right now. And I have so many letters when people, if they go to my website, harpmagic.com, there's a page I have on there called Letters and Comments that I've collected from people all over the world for many years. And just so many amazing stories, but the music has a frequency in it. So, if your listeners are out there, if they're needing some healing, if they're stressed, if they have anxiety, if they're feeling depressed, if they're contemplating ending their life,
Oh,
even,
yeah.
or if they're struggling with something, if they just listen to the music, just come to the website, listen to the samples, and you can hear the sound, and it can help.
Why is meditation so important when trying to communicate with angels?
Well, because meditation helps to calm the mind, and the communication, the circuit of connection with angels is beyond the rational mind. And we all know that, even Jesus said, in the Bible, in Matthew, he said, the book of Matthew, let thy eye be single and your body will be filled with light. So when we meditate, we focus on on the third eye, and that opens up the heavenly worlds to us. You can see the light. And there's another saying, knock and the door shall be opened. And so when we sit and quiet, there's that saying, be still
Yes.
and know that I am God. So sitting in stillness, this is one of the hardest things for most people to do, especially in the West, is to sit in a room by yourself in complete silence and look within. It's not easy for a lot of people because the mind is we have monkey mind. We have all this coming at us with the media, with social
Oh,
media.
gosh, yeah.
We're scrolling reels. There's just so much is coming at us compared to like what our grandparents or even our parents experienced, that it's overwhelming. And we're seeing the effect with, record suicides, even with teens and young people. And there's a real problem. There's a real illness in the collective of humanity. And so we need a solution to get us out of this crazy kind of matrix of all this stuff, and to sit in and get centered and find that place within yourself. The answer is not outside of yourself, but the key is to go within. All the great teachers, all the great masters, all the great religions tell us to go within. And the music, the angels gave it to me. It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle of transcendence. So with my music, you can hear the angels, you can hear the angelic choirs, you can hear the heavenly essence in it. The spirit is there. And if you connect with that, it has an effect on the nervous system, and it changes the brainwave state. People are often in a very kind of delta, very active brainwave. So we have to kind of shift harmonics in the brainwave state. And the music is a vehicle. It creates like a resonant field, and you can come into resonance with it, and it'll change. Those vibrations will come in. It'll calm the nervous system, calm the mind, and people can experiencing something new from that.
Peter, how can our listeners increase their frequencies in order to match those that the angels, are higher frequency, and that they'll have better success in contacting and communicating with their angels?
Well, I use a lot of different things. Like there's different ways to connect with the angels. Okay, so we can use like oracles, like perhaps angel cards.
Okay.
A way to open up a bridge of communication, right? So you can use tarot cards, or angel cards can help. Now my music is a bridge. So I often tell people, here's what I tell people to do, is to, especially at night when you're laying down, play my music softly, light a candle, and just as you're going to sleep, and just look out into the room and just call them with your heart song. It kind of sounds like angels, kind of angels come to me, like that, just from a pure place, if you want that to open. And then just kind of softly gaze out into the darkness in your room. And what often you'll start to see is moving lights kind of in the peripheral vision. And then if you just kind of open up the vision and focus very softly out into the space and call them, we can begin to see them. If you're playing the music, it can really help with that. So there's different things. Also my book, reading my book, there's an energy in it that the way the angels helped me to write the book, that the book is a portal as well into that realm, in the way that I describe my experiences of seeing them and being with them in the angelic realms, in their dimension of light. And that can be very helpful too.
What's the difference between an angel and a spirit guide?
Well, my understanding is, the angels are eternal beings. A lot of them have never had a human incarnation. Whereas often spirit guides are maybe a deceased loved one, like my grandmother's around me a lot. She was my first spiritual kind of teacher, and sometimes I feel the presence of like Leonardo da Vinci or a great composer when I'm making my music, because you can kind of call on these guides, high level guides, to come and teach you. They help from the other side. Angels are purely celestial, ethereal beings that emanate straight from source, and they have a very particular, specific mission with us. And their mission, as they've told me, is to help us, each one of us individually and collectively, to reconnect with that divine source of light, that eternal light that is within. And that's when we go into our deep meditation, a prayerful place, and we make our eye be single and fill our body with light, looking up into the golden light. This is how we connect with that divine source. And these passageways, these portals, these circuits of connection are open more and more for the soul of humanity to reach to a higher plane. Right now we're in a transition time. A lot of timelines are maybe aligning and synchronizing, and more light is coming in. Our sun is going crazy with solar maximum and like activity like we've never quite seen before. So there's a lot of light coming in, and so we can utilize that light to raise our vibration. This is what has always been so important by the angels. We have to raise our frequencies. Yeah. They exist in a particular higher frequencies where mass consciousness in the third dimension vibrates, at a particular frequency and keeps us stuck in that 3D matrix. So our mission is to connect with high frequency vibrational energy any way we can, with high energy music,
Peter,
art, literature. Yes.
We're at that time again where I have to take my break. Final break for this hour, Exonation, and the final segment with our guest this hour, the one and only Peter Sterling. His website, www.harpmagic.com. And Peter and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. And don't forget, hour number 2 is coming right up after the end of this segment, so whatever you do, don't go away. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca and on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and Mutual Broadcast Network. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
I love the colorful clothes you wear and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle word on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me excitations.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Sterling is my guest this hour, and his website is harpmagic.com. Once again, Peter, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your new CD. But when I was going through the material that you were kind enough to send us, you said something there that grabbed my attention called DNA activation. How does that apply to what we're going through now?
Right. Well, we just left that last segment. We were talking about the sun.
Yep.
And so what's been shown to me, of course, and this is very popular kind of in the New Age teachings, is that we're having an evolution. We're an evolutionary species on a timeline, and we're evolving. So our DNA is evolving, perhaps from 2 strands to maybe multiple strands, and also we know from geneticists that the large majority of our DNA is kind of dormant, and they call that junk DNA, and that correlates to what neurologists tell us, that a lot of our brain capacity is kind of dormant too. They call that gray matter. And so we have this, untapped potential in our brain and untapped potential in our DNA. And so what's been shown to me is that as we raise our vibration, as these light streams are coming in from deep space, our planet is being, bombarded by supercharged particles coming from deep space. This is all NASA scientists. I look at all this stuff, and even gamma rays coming in. the magnetic field of the planet, which is our shield from all this stuff, is weakening. So it's allowing more kind of galactic light to come in. And the sun is going off, it's blasting us with charged plasma and these coronal mass ejections. And even right now, as we're speaking, Rob, the sun, like neutrinos and protons coming from the sun are passing through us at the speed of light on that subatomic level. And they kind of interact with the DNA. The DNA is like it gets activated by high frequency light, and it's kind of time coded at this particular time. I believe it was all kind of predestined, pre-encoded in our DNA for this time, that as the light is streaming in, that this will affect the DNA, and it's kind of telling humanity to wake up, to evolve, and to kind of leave the old house behind and spread our wings, kind of a collective angelic ascension into a higher dimension, a higher frequency of light. As we're getting even more light technologies are coming in, kind of things from the future that are just based on light. We have AI, which is even beyond our comprehension of really what this quite is at this point. So we're on a major turning point in the human evolutionary time-space continuum. And so the idea is to really do everything we can to raise our vibration. And you asked me earlier, like even right now, I'm holding on to a beautiful quartz crystal. I often do this when I'm tapping into this kind of energy, and this amplifies, the vibrations, the frequencies. So there's a lot of things, kind of stay away from low frequency music or TV shows or movies. Try to eat cleaner food, that has more light in it. Eat light and feel bright. And there's a lot of different things we can do, working with crystal bowls, tuning forks to help us to tune in to higher frequencies. I do have a new video we just released. I'll just mention here real quickly with a group called Quadable Integrity. And they've been taking some of my music and adding additional overlaid frequencies, like 432 hertz and things. Really powerful. People come to my Facebook page, Peter Sterling Music. I've been posting some of this also on YouTube. You can search for it. It's called Wings of Light. And we just published it 2 weeks ago. We've had 20,000 views and almost 400 comments. People reporting amazing things on it. So please come check that out.
What's in the future for you, Peter? Where do you see yourself? I've been listening to you, my friend, now for just under an hour. And it seems to me that you're more than just a harpist. You're more than just an artist. You're more than just a spiritual person. It seems like you're the ambassador for the angels.
Well, I am. That was the mantle I took on when they came to me 30 years ago and presented me this opportunity to work with them. And that was when my life went on a different trajectory, and I invited them to come into my life, and they started working very intensely with me and helping me to achieve, this grand mission is to bring the light, bring the light, to help the people to see the light. And that's what all my work is about with my music, my art. And I also do tours here in Sedona, and I do Jeep tours, and I work with groups and individuals for many years. It's called Sedona Sacred Land Journeys, and that's on my website too. And I love taking people out into the backcountry, and I take a small harp and I hold the harp up to the wind. The wind plays the harp and it sings a celestial tone that you've never heard before. It sounds like angelic choirs. It's super magical, and that sound opens portals. So I take people and I connect them with that energy here in Sedona. This is my specialty. And then, they receive my music and my art, and Peter Sterling's kind of a portal unto myself with everything I've got going. And I invite your listeners, if they want to come to Sedona and want to come out on the land with me, and we can do that. I'll take you to meet the angels. I love doing that.
Peter, when you were a young lad, did you have any idea the course that your life would take?
I did. I write about this in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing, A True Story of Angelic Assistance. And I had a lot of mystical experiences as a child where I saw the light, and I had mystical things happening to me. I write about that in my book. It turned out my grandmother, my mother's mother, was an Irish grandmother. She was a mystic and a meditator and a soul traveler. And she started whispering things into my ear as a small boy. when she would tuck me in at bed and tell me stories. And the one thing she always said to me was, Peter, listen to your inner voice. And it just made such an impression on me. So I've been tuning into the inner voice guiding me ever since I was young. But then I learned about her soul traveling and her meditations into other dimensions. She really started teaching me when I started going through the change of becoming a man as a young teenager, 13, 14. I was very inquisitive of what she was doing. And then she started just telling me about how she would hear the angels sing to her all the time. And I was so intrigued by that. And so she really got me started, my Irish grandmother, who is a mystic.
Gosh, isn't that wonderful? Peter, what about crop circles? How do they affect change in our lives and in perceptions? And how can people know or discern between a real crop circle and a crop circle that is put up by a bunch of hoaxers who have nothing better to do with their time when they leave the pub?
Yeah, well, I got to go to England 3 years in a row back at the peak of the crop circle phenomena from 2009 to 2012. And starting in 2012, things really started changing with the phenomena. And there hasn't been any really impressive crop circles really since 2012.
That's right.
Yeah, and when I was over there was with the people in the know who were in communication with the circle makers. I got to go in to real crop circles that were just mind-blowing, just incredible. And I have some pictures on my website about that too, and I give presentations about it. But now the whole phenomena has been kind of infiltrated, and there's a lot of hoaxers, and you can tell the difference. A real authentic crop circle is complex. It's perfect. There's no crooked lines generally in an authentic circle, and they have multiple layers of meaning. And you couldn't even imagine making one. And some of the early ones, but you can really see the difference before 2012. Nowadays, and I keep my pulse on the phenomena. They're just very simplistic. It's going back, before it was quantum physics and astrophysics and, microbiology and all sorts of advanced teachings coming through in a coded language. And nowadays, it's almost like a joke.
Peter, in your opinion, who's making these crop circles?
Well, I think there's different groups, and I see my artwork, my portals of light is very similar to crop circles. And so I've had this connection with the circle makers, and I think there's different styles you can see. There seems to be Arcturian, maybe there's Pleiadian. Of course, all the major galactic, kind of tribes are represented there, and you see them in different stylistic patterns.
But why don't they just come down and tell us in a language that we can all understand?
They told me this is the way they do it. The way they do it, they go around to kind of lower evolutionary worlds that are on the brink of having a massive awakening of consciousness, and they're here to assist, just like we'll do humanitarian rescue missions too, to help people to kind of come to a new level. We do that, and on that galactic level, they're trying to help humanity through this very critical time. So we don't, so we go on the higher timeline and don't choose a lower one.
So as you take people on tours throughout Sedona and the caves and all the wonderment out there, the vortexes, they are trying to initiate us and preparing us for the next evolutionary step.
Get the next chapter of humankind's journey towards the light. Yeah. I mean, it's been prophesied, the 1,000 years of peace, the golden age, the end of all wars. And so hopefully we can get over this and make it to the new world. And I have to just hold hope in my heart and soul that it is possible. The angel said it's beyond our imagining what's going to happen. We just have to kind of return to our innocence, become as little children and open up to the wonder of the cosmos and of God and the universe, because some amazing things are going to be happening to us here in the days ahead.
Peter, I've got about a minute and a half left. I'd like to give you 1 minute to give a special message to the listeners of the Exo Nation around the world. What would you like to share? 1 minute.
Well, as I tune into that with my group of angels, once again, they want everybody to believe and have faith and never give up hope, that it's always darkest before the dawn. And there is a great light that's rising on a distant horizon, on an eternal landscape coming from the heavenly worlds. And the veils are thinning. So as we talked about, go into your meditation, go deep into your heart and soul, connect with your angels, connect with your higher self, with your divine self, and ask and knock on the door and ask that God's heavenly worlds and the beauty of these higher planes can be revealed to you, and that you can connect with the divine source. They're here, they're waiting for you. Be courageous, be bold, release any fear, trust, surrender, and let go. Let go into the light and call on your angels and watch your life go on a new trajectory.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. Continued success, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X Zone. So until then, take care, my friend, and blessings to you and yours.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody.
So long, Peter. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Peter Sterling, and if you'd like to find out more about Peter, please visit his website, harpmagic.com. I'll be back on the other side of this very short break as hour number 2 of the X Zone starts right now from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And we're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and of course in Ontario on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, and streaming on classic1220.ca.